Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into a special edition here of the Bama Standard. Before we get started, I need some audience participation from you, the fans. You're so good to us. Let's keep this going. All right, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're not live, so I need you to get in the comment section down below and let me hear from you. Good, bad? Do you agree, disagree? Either way, we love engagement. Today was Alabama's second scrimmage, and we're going to dive right into it. But before we do that, you got to know who's making the call, and I'll do that real quick. Of course, I'm Justin Riley, and with me is Jonathan Lewis and Daniel Petty, two of the best guys to do it on this network. Don't tell Marvin Constant I said that, but that's what we're going with today. Gentlemen, we are now, 14 days away from kickoff. It's becoming more and more of a realization. So let's talk about it. First and foremost, offense. Man, the quarterbacks, as we know, Ty Simpson is quarterback one for Alabama. Unless you're living under a rock, that's what the news is, and we never doubted it for a second. But generalities aside, he is the man, and that's who we would start out with. Ty Simpson had arguably his best day yet in fall camp and arguably his best scrimmage. And I think that's because he knows now that this is his team and his offense to command. So he came out there with a lot more confidence, poise, and moxie, and a lot of command as he led that offense. Had a showcase of both his arm and his legs today, threw a touchdown to Ryan Williams for 25 yards, and then had another rushing touchdown, had 50 yards total. The man can do it all, and I think that we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. Gentlemen, before I talk about the other two, are you surprised of Ty's ascension and really what we're hearing from practice today? Start us out, Petty, and then Jonathan, come after him.
I'm really not, man. I'm excited about Ty. Look, I have a track record with this now. This isn't me just saying this because we've heard he's been good. I've been saying for weeks on shows that I expect Ty at the end of the year to be one of the top five most productive quarterbacks in the SEC. I'm starting to feel better about that prediction. I will say that. But look, man, we've seen flashes. We saw. We laugh all the time. Everybody remembers the fumble at the goal line, but he ran like 80 yards like a deer before it.
Right.
I harp all the time on how well the offense looked when Ty took over against Wisconsin last year. I think we've seen glimpses. People want to go back to the South Florida game all the time and stuff like that. But again, there's just been such a small snapshot. He's got his chance, like you said, Justin, you alluded to. It's, now it's public. It's his team. He's more comfortable. He goes into that, into that huddle, and everybody knows he's the man, but obviously he's showing it on the field too. So look, man, the more comfortable he gets, the more I expect to hear stuff like this. The more I expect to hear the big runs in practice, which, I know they can't really touch him. If they breathe on him, they blow the whistle dead. But still, we know he can make those runs. We know he's got the ability. So whereas a lot of people thought we were going to lose some athletic ability at quarterback, is he Jalen athletic? No, he's not. That dude was a freak. But Ty can get it done with his legs, so I'm pretty excited about it again. I've been on, as our boy Steve Brown likes to say, the Ty train. I guess I've been on it, man. I think Ty can get it done. I think he can get it done in the system, and again, more practices like these give me more belief that that's going to come true.
Absolutely. Jonathan, he had a fantastic day. He had his highest completion percentage yet of fall camp and of the two scrimmages. Still no interceptions to mention. He's playing with a lot more poise, like I said earlier. I know that we as fans knew what the deal was from the very beginning, right? But Ty's a humble guy. He's not just going to assume the job is his. He's still going to work like his job. It's his job to win. And now that he knows that pressure is off and that it's his going forward, he's going to turn into a different animal. And I think today was another showcase of just what we're going to see.
No doubt. So the way I look at this is from a couple of standpoints, right? The first one has to be basically you're named the starting quarterback, which gives you, in my opinion, more freedom to play who you want to play like. Right? You no longer have to worry about making the wrong play, the wrong read, whatever that may look like when you have somebody on your butt possibly going to jump you to start. The second thing I want to take away from this is when you watch that post-game interview with Kalen DeBoer, I love it that he didn't mention Keelan Russell and Austin Mack. That tells me he is focused on Ty Simpson, right? So let's stop talking about Keelan Russell as a starter. Let's stop talking about Austin Mack as a starter. Even as fans, let's concentrate on Ty Simpson being the starter and what he's doing right and what he's doing correct. Number 3, Ty Simpson is what? He's a dual threat quarterback. Guys, we knew he had the athletic ability. We knew that he had the arm talent. Go watch the 70-yard throw. Go watch his high school film. Go watch his practices. And we know that he can score touchdowns. Go back last year, he had 3 rushing touchdowns, no throwing touchdowns, right? So the only thing we're waiting on, and we knew he has the football IQ, by the way, as well. 5-star, comes from a lineage of coach, his dad's a coach, all this great stuff. We just have to see it put together. That's the only thing we had to wait on. And guess what? It took 3, you know what I mean, going on 4 years, whatever that may look like. But now we get to beat on this drum and go, we've been screaming Ty Simpson from the mountaintop that he's going to be great. Just wait till he comes around. Just like we've been beating on Keelan's drum saying he's going to be great, but what? Just wait around. Give Ty Simpson his turn. And I think now that he has those reins taken off, essentially, he can play the way he wants to play, and he can show out and show everybody that they're wrong. And he is a top 3 quarterback. He possibly, in my opinion, could enter this Heisman race. So, yeah.
In all fairness, last year, some people who've been doubters of him are pointing out the fact that he had no passing touchdowns. Well, a couple of those actually were called back.
Yep.
So let's just be fair all around, but no more time to lobby for whoever we want to start. He is the star. Let's get behind them. No more of this talk. And I know that Coach DeBoer didn't really talk about Keelan or Austin today, so I briefly mentioned him. Well, but them both. Austin did lead the offense to a touchdown drive, and Keelan did lead the offense to a field goal. But it's clearly Ty's team, so we're going to focus on him going forward. The wide receivers, best in the business right now, and that's what's going to really allow Ty to continue to just showcase who he is. Rico Scott being one of those guys, as he's a name that you've heard all throughout fall camp and in last scrimmage and then this scrimmage too. He showed out as well. No, people don't panic. That doesn't mean the defense is bad. The defense actually made the offense work for it today. So go ahead and get that statement right now. Jan Miller had a good day. So the offense is doing the thing. The defense is getting a lot better. But before we move to the defensive side of the ball, we got to talk about injuries. James Smith still didn't go today. No worries. Jaden Roberts did not go today either. No worries. Kalen DeBoer revealed that he has a concussion. Both of those guys will be back in time for the trip to Tallahassee. So no need for Tide fans to panic. One thing we got to talk about that Kalen DeBoer mentioned in the press conference was it wasn't exactly the best day for kickers. Now, punter, Blake Donald did a very good job, but the main focus was on the kickers. Not exactly a good showing, gentlemen. I don't know if this is something that's been happening consistently or this is just a case of a bad day. But in your opinion, is this something that we as Tide fans should be concerned about? Start us out, Jonathan, and then Petty will take over.
Look, the reason why I'm going to say yes is because I'm scarred from the beginning of Saban's tenure from kicking, right? So those years leading up his first couple of seasons, we did not do a great job. You know, we lost a couple of games, you know what I mean, on the legs, even in the early 2000s, right? As a Bama fan, I'm scarred by a lot of kicking. Should I be worried? Maybe a little bit. The great news is that obviously Kalen DeBoer did say, look, leading up to this, he's done a great job. He's only missed maybe 1-2 kicks, whatever that may look like. It was just mainly kicks between 39 and 44 yards that he was missing on today, I guess. So we got very specific on what he was missing. But at the end of the day, like, you know, if you're missing in scrimmage, I'm going to be a little worried because how's it going to look when you're in Tallahassee with however 80,000 fans doing the
right.
top, you know what I mean? When you're trying to kick a field goal, I don't know. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm going to be a little worried.
Petty, take it off. Is this something that you're concerned about? Jonathan touched on a little bit. I know Bama fans, as soon as we start talking about that field goals are just a little off, they're going to automatically think that we're going to descend back into the days in the 2010s, and we are doomed, so we better score every touchdown when we're in the red zone.
Yeah, man. Coach DeBoer can say the right things. Like I said, he missed 2 today, the 33, 34, and 44 yard or whatever between that range. But also said that he's been very accurate leading up to it. So you got to take coach at his word. But no, I don't trust a kicker until I see a kicker do it. So no, I don't feel good about kickers ever.
Thank you.
There's certain things you've seen enough in your fandom, regardless of who it is, and there's certain, like, just every program has this thing about them, this kryptonite, and yeah, kickers are absolutely a crimson kryptonite. So, and until you can see them and trust them, I don't trust them. So sorry, buddy, until you do it on the field, like Jonathan said, in front of 80,000 Seminoles, I don't. No, I don't feel good about it. Crap, no, they're kickers.
And like I mentioned earlier, Ryan Williams had a good day, had a touchdown. Rico Scott did his thing. I also want to mention newcomer Caleb Edwards got into the mix, had a few catches, showed his stuff today. Maybe we'll get to see him in the rotation. Who knows? But I really like this tight end group. I think that's probably one of the most underrated positions in the offense. But, gentlemen, it sounds like that our defense is getting more confidence and getting better every day. And I had to start out with a name we heard last week, Nakai Hill-Green, transfer linebacker from Colorado, had another good day. Wherever the ball was, he was popping people. He was letting them know that he might be from the Big 12, but he's going to be making SEC-level hits. And honestly, I think this is a good piece that Alabama needed to add because last year we did struggle against the run. And we had a hard time getting downhill and really stopping things before they got started. Now you got a guy like Nakai Hill-Green who's starting to show that, hey, this won't be a problem. And he has taken it as his personal mission to change things greatly. And he was showing out. So Justin Jefferson said, no, you're not going to be the only one who's going to be getting your shine. He did the same thing today, popping people, letting folks know he's there. And, man, Jeremiah Beeman, every single day, every fall practice, every scrimmage, I know we've had 2, but his name is mentioned. You got to be excited about what you're hearing from Jeremiah Beeman. Of course, Tim Keenan III still doing what he does best. LT Overton doing what he does best. You really don't have to mention those guys. You're looking for those other guys outside of them to step up and be those key pieces that are really going to help out this defense. So, gentlemen, let's talk about the defense. How comfortable are you that after all we've been hearing that and all the preseason hoopla that this is really going to be a serious unit? Talk to me, Daniel, and let me hear from Jonathan after that.
Very comfortable because, let's go back to the press conference. DeBoer said the offense looked really good, but then the defense answered. And, man, all the buzz is about this unit Womack's got. And Nakai Hill-Green's a great example. He comes in from Colorado, and it sounds like he may have etched himself into a starting role. At least he's fighting for it. But that's caused other guys like Jefferson to step up, which is what you need. And then you go and mention Beeman. Beeman's the kid I look to really, make a name this year, but he's behind some guys. But again, I can't say this enough. To be a national championship caliber team, you've got to have an unbelievable elite defensive line. And I don't mean an elite front 4, an elite front 8. Like the guys that come in after aren't much of a step down. So when those guys are getting breathers, your quarterback's still getting chased by the next group. And from all accounts, man, Beeman is that guy. So again, to echo kind of what you said, I'm really excited. His name is one that pops every practice. And again, you've got the names that are up there, Keenan, LT, both in contract years. I'm going to keep saying that because it matters. that makes guys play. But, man, again, you've got to have a rotation that's not a step off. And it sounds like Beeman's not a step off. But and then let's go to the secondary. Secondary is just a wealth. I mean, I think the starters might almost be locked in, but it goes without saying that much like the defensive line, I mean, there's a solid 8 right there where your second group steps in and you don't feel like there's much of a drop-off.
No, not at all. And you mentioned those other guys. You said you need 8. Well, we're still hearing things about Edric Hill, a name that's been consistent since spring ball, now going into fall camp and even in the scrimmages, really making his presence known, really pushing but also London Simmons. We talked about him this past Saturday, had a really good scrimmage, had a really good week leading up to today, had a good day again. So we're getting those pieces that are really going to make a difference and help guys like Tim Keenan have an All-American type year, and also maybe a potential first-round draft pick. You got to have the dudes beside you to be the dude, right? And you mentioned the secondary. We can't leave this podcast without talking about Dijon Lee. Again, this is a man, although he's 17, 18 years old, is playing like he's a veteran. He went from high school kid to freshman to vet in 0.5 seconds. This is a kid. He's a unicorn. He's not like many other his age. He's built like a veteran. He's starting to play it, and the game is coming to him very quickly. Today, had significant reps, made his presence known. Matter of fact, he swatted a ball away, third down in the red zone, and had the offense settle for a field goal. Jonathan, I said a lot there. What's your ultimate takeaway from what we've already talked about? And then now Dijon Lee continues just to put his stamp on this defense as a freshman.
No doubt. So I'm going to back up a little bit because you mentioned the tight ends. Caleb Edwards. I think he could possibly have one of the biggest ascensions on this team as a new face than anybody here. I've been beating on the drum for Caleb as well for a little bit. I love Cuevas. I love those guys, but I think we could see a lot of Caleb moving forward. Now, moving into the defense, as far as the defensive backs, Jason Jones, Kane Womack, these guys have to be the happiest people on the planet, right? So it's not for the fact that you got these guys in front of you. It's the fact that a lot of them were there last year and they came back this year. A lot of the similarities between Ohio State 2 years ago to last year, right? So you brought a lot of that same talent back. You're talking about Damani Jackson, you're talking about Xavier Brown, you know what I mean, and a host of others, LT Overton. But what we're sitting here and talking about is why James Smith does not want to be on the sideline injured, because the moment you get injured and somebody else is in your spot, that's nothing but an opportunity to prove why I should be there and why you shouldn't be there. The depth on this team is crazy. Freddie Roach, same thing, has to be the happiest dude on the planet, right? There's almost no excuse for this defense for Kane Womack, Freddie Roach, Jason Jones. The whole staff is under pressure for this defense to perform this year. I'm interested on the opposite side of what everybody's talking about, which is, there are no excuses. It should be great and all this stuff. I'm thinking about it from the perspective of, is this a pressure cooker situation for Kane Womack, for Freddie Roach, for Jason Jones, these guys, because you do have the talent. Now you have to make it perform. And as Bama fans, we know what that standard is going to be. It's not going to be a top 25 defense with this type of talent. No. We want a top 5 defense because that talent is standing there.
Without question. And then DeBoer had to speak on the return game. Of course, he's never one to really show his hand, and he's not like Saban, who's just going to speak his mind regardless, and he don't care what gets out because in his mind, he's the greatest. And if I tell you everything, I could really give you my whole offensive game plan or defensive game plan. There's nothing you can do about it. Kalen DeBoer is not like that, but he lightly danced around the return game. And that's something that Bama fans have been asking about because, quite honestly, we haven't had that return game that we are known for, like Eddie Jackson's, the Javier Arenas, and so on, Jalen Waddle. And he kept repeating two names today, Cole Adams and Jalen Mbakwe, and then also Jeremy Bernard. If you're mentioning those names over and over again, that tells me those are your guys. And quite honestly, I like what we're starting to see from each of those guys in that facet of the game. And I feel like that we could possibly be very electric when it comes to the return game this year. Where's your comfort level there? Do those names mean anything? Start us out, Jonathan, and then we'll go to Petty.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm not trying to nitpick everything he says, but he also, he mentioned Rico Scott specifically, for kick returning. But just like you said, I think the biggest takeaway is he mentioned Cole Adams and Jalen Mbakwe for doing both kicking and punt returning consistently. I'm super excited for those guys. Cole Adams coming back from his injury. Obviously, Jalen Mbakwe is too talented, too athletic to not be on the field. My comfortability with this, I guess the return game in general, is probably a 100 out of 100, to be completely honest with you. We saw what Ryan Williams did with it last year. Like you said, you mentioned Jeremy Bernard. There's just a host of guys that have the potential to bring that back. Because like you said, Javier Arenas, Eddie Jackson, we're missing all those guys, the Waddles, even Devontae Smith, during his Heisman campaign was returning kicks. So we definitely need that brought back for sure.
Yeah, that was the vanilla ice cream press conference, but that was probably the best bite. Was the kick return game, because I think, we talked about it on this show a few weeks ago about Mbakwe making some headway in the offense. It may be hard to crack that rotation at receiver as deep as it is, but there's no questioning the kid's talent. And if he's got reliable hands, where else do you want him other than punt returner with the skill set he brings to the table? So, and Cole Adams is a guy when you off season when you're trying to find topics to talk about. What about punt returners? Cole Adams is a name a lot of people like to drop out that they would have liked to see back there. So to hear both those names, yeah, I'm with you, Jonathan. It kind of gives me an excited feel that we're going to be in good hands at the return positions, both punt and kick.
Yep.
Good stuff, guys. It's exciting. Like I say, we are at the very tip of the start of the season. Next week is when we start to really plan around Florida State and going to show those Seminoles that maybe you should do more practicing and less talking. But either way, we hope to teach them a lesson, and let that be the mantra. Don't mess with Alabama for the rest of the season. But that's what we got today. Really exciting news coming out of Tuscaloosa. We got ball in the air. Before we close out, I want to remind some folks, tune in to the Bama Standard this Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Central. We have a legend. We're talking about defense. We're talking about hits. Well, we got a guy that kind of wrote the textbook on it. No, I'm not talking about Derek Thomas, but I'm talking to someone who's awfully close, and that's Reuben Foster. He's going to be the guest on Tuesday night, so you definitely want to check that out. He's got some things to talk about regarding this defense, especially when Quay Russaw. You don't want to miss it. It's always a good time with Reuben, especially with some of the stories that he has to tell. But, guys, before we close up shop, I want to get one last takeaway, any last statements you want to make, and then we'll tell folks how they can find us on social media. Start us out, Petty, and then go to Jonathan.
Yeah, last takeaway, it was a quiet press conference, but that's not a bad thing. I feel like that we're getting kind of the quiet before the storm, so to speak, and there's not much drama. There's not a lot of – you're not having to answer questions because there's bad things going on within your program. Everything's just kind of a calm before the storm right now. And, again, the little tidbits you do hear about the quarterback or whatever, now maybe concerns with kicking, whatever. We'll see once we get there, but – I don't know, man. There's the quiet confidence is growing, I feel like, out of that Crimson camp, and I'm pumped to be here again. Short one today, but that's wasn't much out of the press conference, and we're not going to just sit here and make up stuff. We're gonna talk about what there is to talk about. But what we're to talk about now is, like you said, Justin. Next week we're prepping for game week in Florida State, and we'll get ahead of that. And I'm excited to have the man Reuben Foster on here talking about cracking some heads. So you can follow me at Petty_Daniel on X. I'll be with these guys at the Bama Standard Tuesday night, 6 Central, 7 Eastern. See you guys there.
No doubt. So yeah, as far as me at Bama Fan Podcast, as far as that goes on X, my last takeaway is this. The guy that's kind of in the shadows that's not being talked about enough is the transformation that was made between all three of this and getting these guys where they're at now. And I'm talking about strength conditioning coach David Blue. This dude is not getting enough credit for where these guys started last year into now. And you've seen the transformation of how these guys are built. They're just built different at Alabama, right? Built by Bama, as we used to say. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
Can't in it any better way. You can also follow us on all social media at the Bama Standard. That's X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I refuse to call it X. It just doesn't seem right. You can go on our TikTok too at _Bama Standard and get ready because some things are about to pop off, and there is no better network who can provide the best news there is, the Bama Standard. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We gave you a lot of gems, so give us feedback, and we'll see you next week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.